Greetings, everyone. I am Aunni Young, and I'm a social media journalist for ASALH. I am sitting here with Kyra E. Hicks, American quilter and author. Kyra, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes, absolutely. We have you joining here with us because you are one of the featured authors at the Black History Month luncheon at the end of February. And so we're so excited to learn about your book. And would you please share with us who you are, who you have written about?
Certainly. My name is Kyra E. Hicks, and I am an author, I'm a quilt historian, and I'm a quilter. But I've written a book about Harriet Powers, and I look at her life. She was an enslaved person who earned her freedom at the end of the Civil War, and she was a quilter. And two of her quilts have survived and are now in major American art museums. And
Okay.
so I've written a book that shares with the story of how those quilts came from Mrs. Powers' family room and her sewing machine
Hmm.
to major museums. Who are the people who touched the quilts? What's the drama? How did those quilts end up in major museums?
I am curious to know, how did you become a part of the quilting community? How did you become a quilting historian and expert?
Sure.
Mhm.
Um, I became a quilter when I was at the University of Michigan. I took a class on Black women's history, and one of the assignments was to write, a topic of something. And I decided to write about quilt history. And in part of doing my research, I made a wall hanging, like the size of a pillowcase. Self-taught. I went to the grocery store, got a quilt magazine, and kind of looked at it, and um, made a quilt of four of us. There was three other friends, and we would have breakfast once a month at the University of Michigan, each of us trying to get through business school. And I just did a story quilt the size of that pillowcase as part of my assignment. Um, but then how did I get to quilt beyond that? A guy that I was dating at the time, we were visiting, I was in town, and we went to the Taft Museum, and there was an exhibit of African American story quilts. I kid you not. I walked in there and there was a Faith Ringo quilt. There was a quilt by Clementine Hunter. And I knew that I wanted to be on the walls one day with those people. I just knew it. It's like we're talking here. I knew it with that assurity. Um, I
So,
didn't know how, but
right.
eventually I did.
Right. And so, with that being said, you are also a quilter, not just
Mhm.
an expert, not just a historian, not just an author, but the artist of being a quilter.
Yes,
I said that so backwards. You're a quilting artist, period.
I am. I am. I make story quilts.
Okay.
So I don't think I've ever made a traditional quilt other than a patchwork quilt using like kente cloth and ethnic prints. But otherwise, I make quilts that when you look at them, you can read them. And one of my distinguishing creative techniques is I put words in quilts. So, for example, on one of my birthdays, milestone birthdays, I was single, and I made a quilt of a black Cinderella sitting on the steps at the palace with the coach in front, and her dress is hitched up. And you can see from her knees down to her toes that have red fingernail polish on them. And the words on this quilt say, um, let's cut to the chase.
Hmm.
And then along from her knee down to her toes, the words say, I wear size 9.
Oh,
Think about it. The prince had to get the shoe to put on there. And so it's
right.
like, okay, look, I just wear size 9. There you go. And that is a queen size quilt. And so
That,
even if you're standing across the room, you could read it and you know the imagery of Cinderella. So you know what this is. And so I do quilts like that, like single panel, almost like not cartoons, but single panel stories.
and how many quilts have you made thus far in your career?
Oh my goodness. Somewhere between 20 and 25.
That's a lot.
Um,
That's a lot.
it's a lot.
That's
Um,
a lot.
I've been fortunate. A few of them are in museum collections. So the last one a couple of years ago was acquired by the Smithsonian African American History Museum, History and Culture Museum, acquired one of my quilts.
Namak has your quilt. Wow. Isn't that
It, it
amazing?
was it was it was thrilling, let me tell you. It was sold in auction and they purchased it. So when I found out who the purchaser was, I have to admit I was
Amazed.
amazed.
Out of
Because
this
think about
world.
it.
Amazed.
We know about Harriet Powers quilts because they are now in museum collections.
Hmm.
And they've been in collections for 60 plus years. And the
But
quilts themselves are over 100 years.
but we had just talked. She was born in 1837. Of course, her beautiful stories are a legend and in
Yeah,
museums. And now here I'm sitting with someone else whose work is in museums. So
I
I
feel
think
very
that's
fortunate.
you are very fortunate. I listened to you speak, and it may have been some time ago, the recording of it on YouTube,
Mhm.
but you were discussing all of the stories that you place in your quilts and how you communicate truths, right? Through your quilts.
I
And
try to.
you try to. And so you also were asked a question about how is the fashion community in academia, how do they respond to the history of quilts? And so I could you give a brief piece to that and then I'd love to contribute to that as well.
Sure.
Yes.
Um, I think I'll speak about African American quilts. Let me step back. In the United States, quilting is a $3 billion industry. So many times people think of it as something like your maybe your grandparents or your grandmother, your
Mhm.
um, aunt or somebody has done, an older person in the family, but it's a $3 billion industry in the United States. And the African American quilting community produces phenomenal work. When
Yes.
you think about what's happening in with immigration, some of the story quilts around that topic are heart-wrenching. The same way there's an African American quilting guild in Flint, Michigan. Can you imagine the stories they stitched when all of the news came out about the water safety?
Yes.
It's just we tell our stories and we're telling them in fabric. And so, in terms of the fashion community, um, there is an acceptance. And there's a quilter right now, and I apologize, her name, you're gonna have to cut this. I need to think of her name because she is phenomenal. I'm sorry, I'm just looking to see if I have her quilt here. She's a Howard University graduate.
Mhm.
Um, Her name will come to me. Cut all of this. That
That's fine. It can be edited, but I don't think it needs to be. I think this is an open dialogue about what is the fashion industry doing to prepare new artists
Mhm.
in quilting. And personally, I am a fashion designer with an MFA in fashion studio and in design. And I studied fashion history more than once, and I've also taught it. And I would honestly say that quilting is not discussed in a large capacity. And that's all I wanted to get to. It
Sure,
deserves its own space.
it
Um,
does.
right. The art of textiles. That is another element where you study textiles in design school. And I took a textiles course.
Mhm.
Dr. Elka Stevens, faculty coordinator in fashion at Howard University, I served under her as a fashion
Mhm.
um, professor. And she's an expert in textiles. And I'm telling you, she is a unicorn and she is amazing. So I just wanted to share with you there are people like you and like me who love textiles, who love quilting and sewing. But I think that this is worthy of a larger discussion as to how do we as African Americans and related diversities tell our stories to avoid
I agree with you.
erasure, right? to avoid erasure. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
you are absolutely right. Are you familiar with Bisa Butler? That's the quilter that I couldn't remember. Bisa Butler is a Howard University graduate. She started in painting,
Okay.
and was her professor challenged her enough that she decided, let me use fabrics as paint. And her work is phenomenal. Her work is
Absolutely.
absolutely phenomenal in terms of textiles and fashion and art. That's a name that you might want to look at and whose quilts will be around 100 years from now.
Yes. And so will yours, right?
Thank you.
So will yours.
Yes.
And so we are celebrating. Could you hold your book up to the screen for everyone to see? I think that would be amazing. Stay right
It's
there in
called
the
This I
chair.
Accomplished, Harriet Powers, Bible Quilt and Other Pieces. And this is one of Harriet Powers, an interpretation of one of Harriet Powers' Bible quilts.
That is amazing. I listened to a 5 minute professor's lecture on her
Mhm.
quilts, and they were multi-directional. They spoke of 3 or 4 different scriptural references of different stories. And so I just wanted to know, what do you think about telling Bible stories through quilts and the work that she did and how her work was preserved? Can you speak to that so that we understand the importance of Harriet Powers?
Certainly.
Mhm.
Um, so this is around 1880s, 1890s when she made one of the Bible quilts. And when you think about it, in my research, I found a letter that she wrote, and she talked about learning to read from the Bible.
Okay.
And she was a very religious and faithful woman. And so I think it was natural for her to use the Bible stories
Hmm.
as the context of her quilts. What I think is amazing is those quilts are unlike anything that at least I've seen when I've done my research.
Hmm.
They're not, the triangles matching and the points matching. They're not squares. They are stories.
Yes.
When we look at it in the 21st century, we see Adam and Eve and the serpent. We
Hmm.
see Jesus being baptized by his cousin John and the dove coming down, and we can almost hear the Lord saying, well done.
Well done. Right.
We see the crucifixion, and we almost want to touch the blood that's in fabric coming down from where Christ was pierced. And that was from the stitching of Harriet Powers. I think that's why her quilts resonate, is because we see them today, and they saw them in the 1890s, they saw them in the 1960s when the museums began to acquire one of their quilts, because we know the stories.
Okay.
And they're so unlike anything else that people were doing with fabrics and with bed quilts. And so I think that's one of the reasons why she is so celebrated and beloved, is because she was true to her faith and her creative spirit.
You know, I come from a family of sewers
Hmm.
and also quilters. My great aunt sewed quilts, and they were made from different textured fabrics,
Hmm.
different colors, different patterns. And I just thought they were amazing. And
They were,
there's
they
something,
are.
yes, and there's something that, even like you said, even if they're tattered, you want to hold on to them. You don't want to lose them because it's legacy. Yeah. Yeah, it's special.
It's legacy and love. It's
Oh,
legacy and
wow.
love.
Legacy and love. That's
Yeah.
huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
What is your next goal?
In terms of creative goals, you mean?
Written goals, creative goals?
Sure. Um, that's an interesting question. I have to say that I'm thrilled with the postage stamp. In my book, believe it or not, in the back, the last chapter was, there's some unfinished research about Harriet Powers, and I listed about a dozen unfinished things.
Mhm.
And one of them was I felt that she should be recognized with a stamp.
Oh,
So I'm just thrilled about that. Um,
yes.
I think the other thing, aside from quilting, I'm interested in three-dimensional pop-up books and movable books.
I saw that on your website. Hmm.
Yes. And so
Hmm.
I have been doing research and I just need to sit down and get it out of me because I have it all in notes. Um, I want to do a booklet, maybe showcasing 50 pop-up books that had African American characters.
Okay.
When you think about children's literature and African American children's literature, you rarely think about a pop-up or movable book. And
Okay.
there is a legacy in the United States and in actually worldwide on movable and pop-up books, and we have a place in it. And so I want to publish my research on our place in movable books.
Why movable? Why pop up?
I have always been intrigued with storytelling and maybe unique storytelling like quilts.
Hmm.
I spent 7 years working in Hallmark cards, surrounded every day by phenomenal artists and sculptors and writers.
Hmm.
And I love three-dimensional things. I'm curious about them, how they're constructed, how they're made, how they evoke emotions.
Okay.
And in books, I just am fascinated by them.
Wow. Well, that's a wonderful goal. And how do you expect to gain more exposure? Are you just going to be a gem that's been observed by many across many years? I know you've been written about in Essence magazine and in other outlets around the world, but do you expect to be more of a hidden gem in our Black community where you're observed and noticed when you're noticed, or do you have a game plan to truly bring quilting to the forefront? Like you say, you wrapped yourself in, is it Michael
Yeah.
Cunningham's quilt?
Oh,
Uh,
oh,
Cummings,
Michael
excuse me.
Cummings.
And you
Yeah,
wrapped yourself in it, and now you own one of those quilts. Those could be down the runway as well
yeah.
in terms of
Um,
garments. I'm just asking one
sure.
potato to
I think
another.
no, I appreciate the question. In a world of social media, I think sometimes I get tired of social media in terms of the always on. What I want to do is preserve information and gather information for the next generation. So I've written a number of books on African American quilt histories because I don't want anybody ever say that they don't know that they were Black quilters. Nope, I got a book for you. I've got a couple books for you that list hundreds of them by name.
Hmm.
And with the world of movable and pop-up books, I have written two books that are more reference guides to
Hmm.
that area. But I also want to bring, because no one has done it, what is that the history and the input and the creative and the illustrations of pop-up and movable books that have Black people. Nobody's done it. And so I have the research and I don't want to leave without leaving that behind
Okay.
because that might influence somebody else to become not only a graphic designer, but a paper engineer,
Okay.
not only a writer, but to tell their stories on through words and video, but also in something that when you open it up, it magically does things. And I think I can uniquely do that, and I will.
Wow. Wow. I want to say thank you, number one. And number two, I want to shout out Kansas City because you did work for Hallmark Cards in Kansas City. And I'm from
Yes,
Kansas City, and I do understand the vibe of what you went through there, all the great work you did at Hallmark. And so, do you feel that Hallmark has inspired you in some way that led to
absolutely.
expanding your career? I think that would be a great way to put it.
Sure. I have to say, I worked there for 7 years on the business side. I was a marketing strategist in product development, primarily in Christmas products. every day for almost 7 years. I was in Christmas. And
Love it. Love it.
I could not believe it was. I spent like 3 years on keepsake ornaments.
Okay.
So being able to have input on the ornaments that will appear in stores across the nation and in homes for decades. Because
Hmm.
who throws away an ornament, right? Um, and bringing and helping to bring Black angels and Black Santa Clauses and other African American imagery to the ornament line.
Hmm.
So I think I did make a difference with the other marketing managers that worked
Yeah.
there and the talent. But what Hallmark did for me is working with, I wasn't an artist, but there was a dynamic African American creative community there and in Kansas City.
Yes, it is. That's right.
And if I wanted to hang, I had to produce. And I think had I not lived in Kansas City,
Hmm.
I wouldn't, my quilts wouldn't be out there because if I wanted to hang with the artists, I had to produce and then put my work in shows. Um, and
Hmm.
that was a unique experience. If I had gone to work for Leo Burnett, yeah, Burnett, it was an ad agency. It's an ad agency in Chicago,
Okay.
um, which was my other offer. My life would have been different.
Okay.
Life in Chicago is fast paced and whatever. In Kansas City, a little slower pace. Um, and it was a unique time that I cannot believe I got paid to do the work that I did there. The other thing that's important for my having been at Kansas City that was instrumental for my career,
Hmm.
when you think about buying a card, a greeting card, you walk into the store, you walk any place that you're going to get the card, and it's the artwork that arrests you, right? It makes you, oh, that looks pretty, and you pick it up.
Hmm.
But when you read it, that is what makes you buy it. It is that combination of art and words that touches your heart and it makes you think, I want to give this feeling to somebody else. And as an artist and a quilter, I want the same thing with my quilts. I want you to see them and be arrested and stop for the beauty. And I want you to read them and say, gosh darn it, I never thought about that.
Amazing.
And that as an artist is what I want. And in my research, I want to stop you and present you with something that you may not have known.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm quietly gathering information and hopefully putting it together in a way that resonates with you. And that's what Hallmark, in that 7 years,
Mhm.
I drank that. I drank that up and learned that that's for me what works.
What an amazing story. You have an amazing life. You are
Thank you.
that beautiful unicorn that is shining bright. And we look forward to seeing you as a featured author at our Black History Month luncheon, which is sold out, but the featured authors pavilion area where you can buy a book is going to be available to anyone that comes. So we certainly hope this interview will increase our viewers' knowledge of who you are and how special
Thank
you
you.
are. And so on behalf of ASALH, I say thank you. Our president is Dr. Kay Whitehead, and our executive director is Sylvia Cyrus. And so we're so glad to have you in our area so that you can share your beautiful, beautiful work and your
Thank
books
you.
with us. So
I
we thank
appreciate it.
you.
I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we will have more great interviews on ASALH TV right here. Thank you all so much.